Jake wiped the sweat from his forehead as he crawled through the narrow maintenance tunnel. Being the repair guy on a huge space cargo ship wasn't glamorous, but it paid the bills. The Star Runner was carrying supplies to the outer colonies, and something was wrong with the air recycling system on Deck 7. He had been working on ships like this for 3 years now. Same routine every day. Fix broken pipes, replace burnt-out circuits, and try not to think about how far they were from Earth. Space was beautiful through the windows, but down here, in the guts of the ship, it was just metal, wires, and the constant hum of engines. Jake reached the problem area and pulled out his tools. The air vent was making weird noises, and passengers had been complaining about strange smells. He figured it was just another clogged filter, nothing he hadn't seen before. As he loosened the screws on the vent cover, he heard something odd, footsteps, but this section was supposed to be empty. All the passenger rooms were on the upper decks, and crew quarters were on the other side of the ship. Jake paused and listened carefully. The footsteps were light but deliberate, like someone trying to be quiet. His curiosity got the better of him. Maybe someone was lost. It happened sometimes with new passengers who didn't know their way around. He quietly moved toward the sound, following a maintenance corridor he rarely used. The lighting was dim here, just emergency strips along the floor. As he turned the corner, he saw a soft blue glow coming from under a door. This was strange. That room was supposed to be a storage area for spare parts. Jake checked his work tablet. No one had requested access to that room in weeks. The blue light was definitely not normal. He crept closer and found that the door was slightly open. Through the crack, he could see movement inside. Jake knew he should probably report this to security, but something made him hesitate. What if it was just another crew member doing some unofficial work? Very carefully, he peered through the gap in the door. What he saw made his heart skip a beat. A tall figure stood with their back to him, and they definitely weren't human. The person had smooth, blue-tinted skin that seemed to shimmer in the dim light. Strange markings ran along their arms and shoulders, glowing softly like circuit patterns under the skin. Jake had heard stories about other species in the galaxy, but he had never seen one up close. Humans had only recently started traveling to distant star systems, and most of the crew on cargo ships like this were still human. The figure was carefully removing pieces of what looked like armor, or a protective suit. Each piece was sleek and advanced, nothing like the clunky equipment humans used. The technology looked years ahead of anything Jake had ever seen. As more of the armor came off, Jake could see that this was definitely not a passenger who had booked passage on their ship. The way they moved was too careful, too professional. This person knew how to stay hidden and avoid detection. Jake's mind raced. Was this person dangerous, a stowaway, some kind of spy? He had watched enough movies to know that unexpected aliens on spaceships usually meant trouble. The blue markings on the figure's skin pulsed brighter for a moment, creating patterns that reminded Jake of a computer display. It was both beautiful and unsettling at the same time. He tried to back away quietly, but space on ships was always tight. As he shifted his weight, his elbow bumped against a loose pipe bracket on the wall. The metal made a small but clear clink sound. Time seemed to freeze. The figure stopped moving completely. Even from behind, Jake could sense their alertness. Like a cat that had just heard a mouse, slowly, very slowly, the alien turned around. Jake found himself staring into the most intense eyes he had ever seen. They were silver white, almost glowing, and seemed to look right through him. The face was humanoid, but clearly not human. The features were sharper, more defined, with a regal quality that made Jake feel like he was looking at royalty. For several long seconds, neither of them moved. Jake's heart was pounding so loud. He was sure the alien could hear it through the door. The alien's expression was unreadable. Not angry, not surprised, just calculating, like they were quickly deciding what to do about this unexpected problem. Jake realized he was holding his breath. Part of him wanted to run, but his legs felt frozen. Another part of him was fascinated. He had never seen anything like this person before. The alien took a step toward the door, and Jake finally found the ability to move. But instead of running away, He did something that surprised even himself. He slowly raised his hand in what he hoped was a universal gesture of peace. The aliens stopped and tilted their heads slightly, studying him with those piercing silver eyes. For a moment that felt like ours, they simply looked at each other through the crack in the door. Then, to Jake's amazement, the alien made a small gesture with their hand, not threatening, but almost like they were acknowledging him. Jake realized that this moment would change everything, whatever happened next. His quiet life as a repair technician was about to become a lot more complicated. The alien stepped closer to the door, and Jake had to make a choice. Run away and pretend this never happened, or stay and find out what this mysterious person wanted. His curiosity won over his fear. Jake stayed where he was, waiting to see what would happen next. Chat control is Sonnet 4. The alien stepped back from the door and made another gesture, this time. It was clearly an invitation for Jake to come inside. Jake's hands were shaking as he pushed the door open wider. Please, do not be afraid, the alien said in perfect English, though her voice had a slight musical quality to it. I'm not here to harm anyone. Jake was shocked that she could speak his language so clearly. You can talk. A small smile crossed her face. My people have been studying human languages for many years. I am called Zara, and you are Jake. He managed to say, still trying to process everything. I'm just a repair guy. I fix things when they break. Zara nodded approvingly. Good. Someone who understands how systems work. That could be very helpful. Jake looked around the storage room. Zara had somehow turned it into a small command center. Strange devices were scattered on a makeshift table, displaying symbols and patterns he didn't recognize. How did you get on our ship? We're in the middle of nowhere. I boarded at the last station while your crew was loading cargo, Zara explained calmly. She continued putting away the pieces of her armor, each piece seeming to compress into a much smaller size. Your security systems are not designed to detect someone like me. Are you some kind of space police? Jake asked, remembering all the sci-fi movies he'd watched. Zara paused. Something like that. I track down criminals who have committed serious crimes. Right now, I'm hunting someone very dangerous. Jake felt his stomach drop. Dangerous? Like, dangerous to the ship? Potentially, yes. Zara turned to face him fully. The person I seek has stolen something very important from my world. Technology that could hurt many people if used wrongly. She activated one of her devices, and a holographic display appeared. In the air between them, Jake's eyes widened as he saw what looked like a 3D map of their ship, complete with moving dots representing people. This criminal is somewhere on your vessel, Zara continued. They are disguised as either a passenger or crew member. I have been watching and listening, but I need help to search areas I cannot reach. Jake stared at the display. You can see everyone on the ship, not exactly see, but detect their presence. However, the person I seek knows how to hide their true identity. They could look completely human to you. The reality of the situation was starting to sink in. So there's a dangerous alien criminal on our ship, pretending to be human, yes. Zara said simply, and they must be stopped before we reach the next station. Jake ran his hands through his hair. This was way beyond fixing broken air vents. Why should I help you? How do I know you're telling the truth? Zara touched another device, and suddenly Jake could see images in the hologram, cities in ruins, strange creatures lying motionless, technology that looked broken and twisted. This is what happened to the last place this criminal visited, Zara said quietly. They stole biological research and used it to create weapons. Thousands died before we could stop them. The images were disturbing, but not graphic. Jake could see that whatever had happened was serious, and you think they're going to do the same thing here? If they reach a populated planet with the technology they have stolen, yes. Zara's silver eyes met his. Your species is still new to space travel. You are not prepared for this kind of threat. Jake felt overwhelmed. But I'm nobody special. I just fix pipes and wiring. What could I possibly do to help? You can go places I cannot without causing suspicion, Zara explained. You have access to ship systems and records. Most importantly, you know this vessel and its crew better than I do. She pulled up another display showing the ship's layout. I need to examine certain areas where this criminal might be hiding or conducting experiments. But if I am seen by the wrong person, they might escape or become desperate. Jake studied the display. Some of the highlighted areas were places he visited regularly for maintenance work. What exactly are we looking for? Signs of unauthorized equipment, strange smells or sounds, areas that seem different than they should be. Sarah began putting away her devices. This criminal needs space and privacy to continue their work. They will have found somewhere on this ship to set up. Like a secret lab, exactly. Sarah finished packing and looked more human now, though her blue-tinted skin and glowing markings still gave her away. Will you help me, Jake? Jake thought about all the innocent people on the ship. Families traveling to new colonies, workers, like himself just trying to make a living. If there really was a dangerous criminal among them, someone had to do something. If I help you, what happens to me when this is over? He asked. You return to your normal life. Zara said, though I suspect you will be compensated well for your assistance. My people value those who help protect others. Jake took a deep breath. Okay, I'll help. But you have to promise me that no innocent people will get hurt. That is exactly what I'm trying to prevent, Zara replied. She handed him a small device that looked like a simple communication earpiece. This will let us stay in contact without anyone noticing. It also has a scanner that will help you detect unusual technology. Jake put the device in his ear. It was so small and light he could barely feel it. How does it work? Just think about wanting to contact me, and it will connect us. If the scanner detects something unusual, you will hear a soft beeping sound. This is all pretty crazy, Jake said, shaking his head. Yes, it is, Zara agreed. But sometimes ordinary people must do extraordinary things to protect others. Jake realized that his life had just taken a completely unexpected turn. Yesterday, his biggest worry was a broken air filter. Now he was working with an alien bounty hunter to catch a dangerous criminal. Where do we start? He asked. Zara smiled, and for the first time, she looked almost friendly. We start by you showing me the places on this ship where someone could hide serious equipment without being discovered. As they prepared to leave the storage room, Jake wondered what he had gotten himself into. But looking at the determination in Zara's eyes, he knew they had to try. Too many lives were at stake to do nothing. Chat controls Sonnet 4. Jake led Zara through the maintenance corridors, his heart still racing from everything that had happened. The earpiece she had given him felt strange at first, but now he could barely notice it. So how exactly do we find this criminal? Jake whispered as they walked through the dimly lit passages. We look for signs, Zara replied quietly. Unusual power consumption, strange chemicals, areas that smell different. This person needs equipment to continue their work. They reached the first location on Jake's list, a rarely used storage area near the engine room. Jake used his access card to open the door, and they stepped inside. The room looked normal at first glance. Boxes of spare parts, old equipment, and cleaning supplies lined the walls. But as they searched deeper, Jake noticed something odd. This box shouldn't be here, he said, pointing to a container that looked newer than everything else. I was in this room last month, and that wasn't there. Zara approached the box and held up a small device that began glowing softly. There are traces of unknown technology here, she said, but old traces. Whoever was using the space has moved on. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. The criminal had been right here, probably while Jake was working just a few rooms away. They continued their search through 3 more storage areas, finding similar signs in each one. Small clues that someone had been using these spaces temporarily, then moving on. They're smart, Zara observed as they checked another empty room. Never staying in one place too long, always moving their operation. But that means they could be anywhere on the ship right now, Jake said, feeling frustrated. Not anywhere, Zara corrected. They need certain things, power, privacy, and access to resources. That limits their options. Jake thought about the ship's layout. What about the medical bay? It has its own power supply, and it's usually empty at night. Zara's eyes lit up. That is an excellent suggestion. Medical facilities would have equipment this criminal could modify for their purposes. They made their way toward the medical section, but Jake insisted they wait until the evening shift. Change, Dr. Rodriguez usually leaves around 8, and the night medical officer doesn't come on duty until 10. That gives us a 2-hour window. While they waited, Zara showed Jake how to use the scanner properly. Listen for patterns in the beeping. She explained, fast beeps mean recent activity. Slow beeps mean older traces. At exactly 8:15, they entered the medical bay. The lights were dimmed for the night cycle, and everything looked perfectly normal. But as they moved deeper into the facility, Jake's scanner began beeping slowly. Someone's been here, he whispered. They found the first real evidence in a storage closet that should have contained medical supplies. Instead, it held equipment Jake had never seen before. Strange tubes, devices with alien symbols, and containers filled with unidentifiable substances. This is it, Zara said grimly. This is definitely the technology stolen from my world. Should we destroy it? Jake asked. No, if we destroy it now, the criminal will know we're onto them and might become desperate. We need to find out who has been using this equipment. Zara began scanning the devices with her equipment. These machines have been used recently, within the last day or two. Jake checked the medical bay's computer logs. According to this, only 3 people have accessed this area in the past week. Dr. Rodriguez, Nurse Chen, and he paused. Reading the third name, Captain Davis, the captain, Zara asked, surprised. No, that can't be right, Jake said, double-checking the logs. Captain Davis hasn't left the bridge level in months. He's too busy managing the ship, Zara frowned. Could someone be using his access code? Jake thought about it. Maybe, but you need to know his personal identification numbers. That's not easy information to get. They continued searching and found more evidence that someone had been conducting experiments. Used test tubes, residue from unknown chemicals, and most disturbing of all, what looked like biological samples. What exactly did this criminal steal? Jake asked, looking at the samples nervously. Biological modification technology, Zara explained. It was designed to help injured people heal faster, but in the wrong hands. It could be used to create dangerous organisms or weapons. Jake felt sick. And they're testing it here? On our ship, it appears so. Zara continued her scans. But I don't think they're creating weapons yet. These experiments look more like practice runs. Practice for what? For when they reach a planet where they can set up a proper laboratory. Zara's expression was grim. We need to find this person before we reach the next station. Jake checked his work schedule on his tablet. We dock at New Haven Colony in 3 days. That's a big settlement with millions of people. Then we have very little time. Zara began collecting samples of the evidence. We need to watch this area and see who comes back to use this equipment. What if they don't come back? What if they've moved somewhere else again? Zara considered this. Then we set a trap. We make them think their equipment has been discovered by accident and see who reacts. Jake wasn't sure he liked the sound of that. What kind of trap? You report a minor maintenance issue in this area. Something that would require you to come back tomorrow with other crew members. If the criminal is monitoring ship communications, they'll know their hiding place is about to be exposed. And then what? Then they'll either try to move the equipment tonight, or they'll try to stop you from returning. Either way, we'll be watching. Jake realized this plan would put him in real danger. But looking at the evidence around them, he knew they didn't have a choice. Okay, he said. I'll report a problem with the medical bay's ventilation system tomorrow morning. That will require a full inspection. Zara nodded approvingly. Good. But tonight, we take turns watching this area. If someone comes back to move this equipment, we need to see who it is. As they prepared to leave the medical bay, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. The ship suddenly felt much less safe than it had that morning. Zara, he said quietly, what happens if we can't catch this person? She turned to look at him, her silver eyes serious. Then a lot of innocent people are going to die. Jake, and it will be up to us to live with that knowledge. The weight of responsibility settled on Jake's shoulders as they made their way back. Through the corridors, tomorrow would bring new challenges. and he just hoped they were ready for whatever the criminal might do next. Jake barely slept that night. Every sound in the ship made him wonder if the criminal was moving their equipment. He kept checking the earpiece Zara had given him, but everything remained quiet. The next morning, Jake reported the fake ventilation problem in the medical bay, just as they had planned. His supervisor, Chief Torres, scheduled a full inspection for that afternoon. "You and the new maintenance tech will check every vent in that section," Torres told him. "Make sure there are no blockages or contamination issues." Jake's heart sank. He hadn't planned on having another person involved. New maintenance tech. Yeah, Alex started yesterday, fresh out of training. Consider this their first real assignment. When Jake met Alex later that morning, he was surprised to find someone around his own age who seemed eager to learn. Alex had short brown hair and friendly eyes, and asked lots of questions about how ship systems worked. "I've always been fascinated by space technology," Alex said as they gathered their tools. "There's so much we still don't understand about what's possible out here." Something about the way Alex said that made Jake uncomfortable, but he couldn't put his finger on why. They headed to the medical bay together, with Jake trying to figure out how to contact Zara without Alex noticing. As they entered the area, Jake's scanner began beeping softly in his ear. "What's that noise?" Alex asked suddenly. Jake's blood ran cold. "What noise?" "I thought I heard a beeping sound." Alex looked around the room carefully. "Maybe it's coming from one of the medical machines." Jake realized that Alex had incredibly sharp hearing. Most people wouldn't have noticed the quiet scanner beeps. Yeah, probably just equipment doing automatic checks. They began inspecting the ventilation system. But Jake kept glancing toward the storage closet where they had found the criminals' equipment. To his surprise, the closet door was slightly open, and he could see that it was empty. Someone had moved everything during the night. Alex noticed him looking. "Is there a problem with that storage area too?" "I should check it, just to be thorough," Jake said, trying to sound casual. When he opened the closet completely, it was obvious that someone had cleaned out all the strange equipment. But they had been in a hurry. There were still traces of the chemical residues, and the scanner in Jake's ear was beeping more rapidly. "Looks like someone spilled something in here," Alex observed, kneeling down to examine some stains on the floor. "This doesn't look like normal medical supplies." Jake watched Alex closely. The way they examined the stains seemed very professional, like someone with scientific training rather than a basic maintenance worker. "You seem to know a lot about chemicals for someone who just started," Jake said carefully. Alex looked up with a smile that didn't quite reach their eyes. "I studied biochemistry before switching to maintenance work. Sometimes the academic world isn't as exciting as people think." Jake felt the hair on the back of his neck stand up. Something was very wrong here. Through his earpiece, he heard Zara's voice. "Jake, get out of there now. I'm detecting massive energy readings from that area." But it was too late. Alex had pulled out a device that Jake recognized from the equipment they had found the night before. "I really wish you hadn't gotten involved in this, Jake," Alex said, no longer sounding friendly. "You seem like a decent person." Jake backed toward the door, but Alex pressed a button on the device, and suddenly Jake felt dizzy and weak. "Don't worry, it's not permanent," Alex said as Jake slumped against the wall. "Just something to keep you quiet while I finish my work here. You're the criminal." Jake managed to say. "Criminal is such an ugly word," Alex replied, packing the device away. "I prefer to think of myself as a researcher who isn't bound by conventional limitations." Jake tried to reach his earpiece to contact Zara, but his arms felt too heavy to move. "Oh, I know about your alien friend too," Alex continued conversationally. "I've been monitoring ship communications since I came aboard. Very interesting technology she has." Through the fog in his mind, Jake realized how badly they had underestimated their opponent. The medical bay was just a temporary workspace, Alex explained as they gathered more hidden equipment from secret compartments. Jake hadn't even noticed. "I've been using multiple locations throughout the ship, always staying one step ahead." "Why are you doing this?" Jake asked weakly. Alex paused in their packing. "Because the technology I've developed could revolutionize medicine. But my own people called it too dangerous. They destroyed my research and exiled me. Maybe they were right, Jake said. Were they right when they refused to use my healing compounds to save dying children? Were they right when they burned years of work that could have helped millions? Alex's voice became bitter. I'll show them what their fear and ignorance cost the galaxy. Jake heard footsteps in the corridor. Outside, Alex heard them too and moved quickly to hide their equipment. Dr. Rodriguez entered the medical bay, looking surprised to see them there. I thought the maintenance inspection wasn't until this afternoon, she said. We're just doing a preliminary check, Alex said smoothly, back to their friendly demeanor. Jake found some irregularities in the ventilation readings. Dr. Rodriguez looked concerned. What kind of irregularities? I haven't noticed any problems. Jake tried to speak, to warn her, but the device Alex had used was still affecting him. Nothing serious, Alex assured her. Just some minor calibration issues. We should have it sorted out soon. Dr. Rodriguez nodded and moved toward her office. Let me know if you need access to any restricted areas. As soon as she was out of earshot, Alex turned back to Jake. You're going to help me finish loading my equipment, and then we're going to take a little trip to the cargo bay. I won't help you, Jake said, though his voice was barely a whisper. Oh, I think you will, Alex replied, pulling out another device. Because if you don't, I'll use this to contaminate the ship's water supply. Everyone on board will be affected within hours. Jake stared at the device in horror. You kill innocent people? Only if I have to, Alex said coldly. My research is more important than a few hundred lives. But if you cooperate, no one has to get hurt. Jake realized he was trapped. He couldn't let Alex harm the other passengers and crew. But helping them escape meant allowing a dangerous criminal to continue their work elsewhere. Through his earpiece, he heard Zare again. Jake, I'm coming to find you. Try to delay them as long as possible. But Alex had heard the transmission too. They pulled out a scanner and quickly located Jake's earpiece, crushing it under their foot. Your alien friend won't be able to help you now, Alex said with satisfaction. And by the time she figures out where we've gone, we'll be long gone. As Alex forced Jake to help carry their equipment toward the cargo bay, Jake wondered if this would be the last time he'd see any of his fellow crew members alive. He had to find a way to stop Alex before they could escape and continue their dangerous experiments elsewhere. But first, he had to figure out how to overcome the effects of whatever Alex had used on him. And he was running out of time. Jake's head was slowly clearing as Alex forced him through the ship's corridors toward the cargo bay. The effects of whatever device Alex had used were wearing off. But Jake pretended to be weaker than he actually was. You know, Jake and another. Life we might have been friends, Alex said as they walked. You're curious about how things work. Just like me. The only difference is that I'm not afraid to push boundaries. There's a difference between pushing boundaries and hurting people. Jake replied, trying to buy time. They reached the cargo bay, and Jake was shocked to see how much equipment Alex had hidden there. Crates of strange devices, computers with alien symbols, and several containers that looked like they held biological samples. Impressive, isn't it? Alex said proudly. I've been preparing for months. When we dock at New Haven Colony, I'll have everything I need to set up a proper research facility. Jake looked around desperately for a way to escape or signal for help. That's when he noticed something moving in the shadows between the cargo containers. Zare appeared silently behind Alex, but Alex spun around at the last second, as if they had sensed her presence. The famous Zephyrian bounty hunter, Alex said with a cold smile. I was wondering when you'd catch up. Your crime spree ends here, Zare said firmly, her hand moving toward a device on her belt. Does it? Alex pulled out the contamination device they had threatened Jake with earlier. One press of this button, and everyone on this ship dies within 6 hours. Are you willing to risk that? Zare stopped moving, but her silver eyes never left Alex's face. You're bluffing. If you contaminate the ship, you'll die too. Will I? Alex held up another device. This is an immunity booster based on my own research. I can survive my own weapons. Jake realized this was his chance. While Alex was focused on Zara, he quietly moved toward one of the equipment crates. If he could find a way to disable Alex's devices, Jake, Don't even think about it, Alex said without turning around. I have enhanced hearing, remember? I can track your movements easily. But Jake had noticed something Alex hadn't. Dr. Rodriguez was standing in the doorway of the cargo bay, having followed them from the medical area. She had heard everything. You're the one who's been stealing medical supplies, Dr. Rodriguez said, stepping into the room. I've been trying to figure out why our inventory never matched the computer records. Alex's attention was now divided between three people, and Jake could see they were getting nervous. Dr. Rodriguez, you need to leave immediately, Alex said. This doesn't concern you? Doesn't concern me? Dr. Rodriguez looked angry. You've been conducting illegal experiments using my medical bay, putting my patients at risk. And now you're threatening to poison the entire ship. I'd say that concerns me quite a bit. She pulled out her communicator. Security to Cargo Bay 7. We have a situation. Don't, Alex shouted. But Dr. Rodriguez had already sent the message in desperation. Alex pressed the button on the contamination device. But nothing happened. Zara smiled. Did you really think I wouldn't disable your backup plans while you were busy talking? I've been tracking your equipment for days. Jake looked at Zara with new respect. She had been several steps ahead of Alex the entire time. Alex threw the useless device aside and pulled out what looked like a weapon. Fine. If I can't complete my research, at least I can make sure you don't stop me from trying again somewhere else. Alex, please, Jake said, stepping forward. This isn't what you really want. You said you wanted to help people, to save lives. How does this accomplish that? For a moment, Alex hesitated. You don't understand. My people rejected revolutionary medical advances because they were afraid. Children died because of their fear. Then prove them wrong, Dr. Rodriguez said gently. Show them that your research can be used safely. Work with the medical community instead of against it. It's too late for that, Alex said sadly. I've gone too far down this path. Zara stepped closer. It's never too late to make better choices. My people have rehabilitation programs for scientists who have lost their way. You could continue your research under proper supervision. Jake could see that Alex was wavering. Think about all the good you could do if you worked with people instead of hiding from them. Security officers arrived at that moment, but Zara signaled for them to wait. Alex was still holding the weapon, but their grip was loosening. I just wanted to help, Alex said quietly. I wanted to prove that my ideas could save lives. They still can, Dr. Rodriguez said. But not like this, not by threatening innocent people. Alex looked around at all the faces watching them, Jake, Zara, Dr. Rodriguez, and the security officers. Finally, they set down the weapon and raised their hands. I surrender, Alex said. But I wanted on record that my research could have helped millions of people if anyone had been willing to listen. As the security officers secured Alex and began cataloging the stolen equipment, Jake felt a mixture of relief and sadness. Alex wasn't evil. They were brilliant but misguided, and their story could have ended very differently. What happens now? Jake asked Zara. Alex will be taken to a facility where their research can be properly evaluated, Zara explained. If any of their discoveries are truly beneficial, they'll be developed safely, and Alex will receive the help they need. Dr. Rodriguez was examining some of Alex's equipment. I have to admit, some of these ideas are quite innovative. With proper ethical oversight, they might actually lead to medical breakthroughs. Jake felt good about that. Maybe something positive could come from this whole situation after all. Over the next few hours, as they dealt with security reports and evidence collection, Jake learned more about Zara's world and her work as a bounty hunter. She wasn't just interested in catching criminals. She genuinely cared about protecting innocent people and helping those who had lost their way find a better path. What will you do now? Jake asked as Zara prepared to leave the ship at the next station. I'll make sure Alex reaches the rehabilitation facility safely, she said. And then I'll return to tracking other criminals who need to be stopped. Will I ever see you again? Zara smiled. The galaxy is smaller than you might think, Jake, and good people like you are rare. I have a feeling our paths will cross again. She handed him a small communication device. If you ever want to see more of the galaxy than just the inside of maintenance tunnels, contact me. Someone with your skills and integrity would be welcome on my ship. As Jake watched Zare leave, he realized that his life had changed forever. He was still a maintenance technician on a cargo ship, but now he knew there was a much bigger universe out there, full of both dangers and wonders. The next time someone told him that fixing broken pipes was boring work, he would just smile and remember the alien bounty hunter who had shown him that even ordinary people could make a difference in extraordinary circumstances. And who knows, maybe someday he would take Zara up on her offer and see what other adventures were waiting among the stars.